Well, good morning, everyone. Before I begin, I just want to say what an absolute pleasure it is to be here today. So like we said, my name is Lydia and I am an old girl, and there's kind of a large part of me that wants to fling on my old uniform and come and sit alongside you all up there. I've spent so many hours of my life in this very room, at various choir rehearsals, exams, concerts. The list goes on. It feels very natural to be back. Having said that though, I also can't help but feel like an entire lifetime has passed since I was at school. So I finished school at the end of 2013. I'm 25 now. Since 2013, we have had 5 prime ministers, we've had 3 US presidents, we've had Brexit, we've had Megxit, we've had trade wars, military coups, the rise of TikTok, and that's even yet without mentioning the pandemic. I feel it would be remiss of me not to acknowledge the impact that COVID-19 has had on you all. High school's hard enough to navigate as it is without the added trauma that this last year's had on so many, and I want to commend you on your resilience and your perseverance. That you are here today is a testament to your dedication to your education, and I don't want you to forget that. So when I compare myself to you, I can't help but feel like you all must be much more worldly and mature than me when I was at school. Not only because of the pandemic, but you have things at your disposal that I didn't have. You've exposure to world news and current events, which is completely unprecedented, as well as social media, which has exploded since my time. So I feel you probably have a lot you could teach me. But it's me up here. And I'm going to talk to you about my most important life learning. It's actually something I began to learn at school. It's something I then studied further at university. And upon realizing what I'm about to tell you, I've been able to practice it in every single aspect of my life. It's the best way to connect to yourself, the best way to connect to others, and the best way to connect to the world around you. It is, in my opinion, the only way that you can effectively understand, critique, and challenge the present in order to change the future. You need to study history. You need to connect with the past. Now, I promise I have not been bribed by a history teacher to come and talk to you all on this today. This is not a joke. This is not something that I thought of last minute. This is the most valuable piece of advice that I can give you in order to be an engaged citizen, a critical thinker, and an effective political, social, cultural, and economic commentator in the modern day. Now, I don't mean learning history in terms of memorising timelines or reciting kings and queens in chronological order. I mean critically examining things that we take as truth. I mean asking why we do things the way that we do. I mean looking at the traditions that we have and questioning the purposes that they serve. I mean understanding where we have come from and why we have changed in order to visualise and lead progress. This is because history teaches you 3 things. History teaches you about the future. History teaches you about identity, both that of your own and of others. And history forces you to question what is important. History teaches about the future, I hear you ask. Well, let me give you an example. Look at this map of Europe. So this is a satellite image taken at night time, so the lights are indicative of bigger cities. The yellow lines, they represent 80,000 kilometres worth of roads built by the ancient Romans. Now, a group of Danish economists from the University of Copenhagen, they realised that many modern European cities laid upon ancient intersections that were built thousands of years ago. Upon further statistical analysis, they found that areas that tended to have a greater density of ancient roads were more prosperous economically in the modern day. Now, why does knowing this matter? Why are economists of all people looking at history? It's because by understanding how the past has shaped the present, you can better plan for the future. These economists, by understanding how these roads have shaped how we live, do business, exist today, are making better and more informed decisions about policy, resourcing, housing, and more. You can understand all sorts of life questions by taking the time to study the steps we've taken to get to the present. And you can apply this to anything. The English language, for example. So the ancient English people, the Saxons, they spoke a type of German. That's why we have words like brother in our language, from the German Bruder. Then the Vikings invaded. We get words like Thursday, which break down to Thorsday. Yes, we have a day of the week named after the Norse god of Chris Hemsworth Marvel fame. Then the Normans invade in 1066, and we reintroduce Latin into the mix. We get words like July from Julius Caesar, August from Caesar Augustus, We are living proof of how social politics 1,000 years ago is still impacting how we communicate today. You can begin to think about what language might look like in the future. For example, what might be the impact of social media and technology have on language? Words like lol and selfie are already well and truly integrated into our vocabulary. How might it change further? What might history tell us? So what else can we learn from history? When you ask someone about themselves, they will tell you their personal history. Why is that? It's because the events in someone's past shape their present. It gives you an idea as to what they've stood against, what they have overcome, so that they and their families could be where they are today. Imagine then if you could scale up this understanding that what someone's past impacts their present. When I started this speech, for example, I spoke about what's happened since I left school. Pandemics, politics, world events. Those things have shaped our shared history. They therefore shape our worldview and our sense of self as a result. Imagine then how much better you can connect with people by taking the time to study the past of the societies and the cultures that they belong to. Studying history means you will never again judge a person the same without taking the time to consider their context. It can take you to the far-flung corners of the earth, meet people you have never met before, recognise similarities and differences between you, as well as give you an idea as to why those differences might exist. Understanding people and the present better will help you in every single aspect of your life. Even in my career in banking, you might think it has nothing to do with history, but it has everything to do with history. I can better navigate the corporate sphere by taking the time to understand why it exists in the form that it does today. By studying the history of the company I work for, I can better implement their corporate strategy because I know the reasons behind its existence. By understanding economic history, I'm better equipped to recognise early signs of economic depression or recession and make better decisions off the back of it. By understanding the history of women in the workforce, I know how hard women before me have fought so that I could be where I am today. Therefore, I am better able to also fight for equal representation and equality. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you shouldn't study other things. I would not dream of steering such a capable room full of students away from other fields such as medicine, language, mathematics, because all knowledge is valuable. What I'm saying is that paired with the study of history, knowledge goes from being valuable to being powerful because it forces you to question what is important. Everything else I studied taught me what? What is an interest rate and what does it do? History is unique in its ability to get you to ask why. Not what is an interest rate, but why does our economy function with them and why were they ever designed? Why is Australia a democracy? Why does it look so different to ancient democracies like that was originally built in Athens, or other modern democracies like the USA or India? Why are other countries not democracies and how does that impact how we interact with them? Why were women only given the vote in 1902 and why might that help explain why to this day there exists a gender pay gap? Why do we celebrate certain public holidays and why might there be controversy about these dates? Why are we pulling down statues of historical figures and why are we cancelling people? Why is it that what these people stood for at a certain point in the past is no longer compatible in the modern day? And why does that matter? Why is there such a life expectancy gap between Indigenous and non-Indigenous Australians? Why do land borders exist where they do? Why do we fight wars over religion? Why was the Great Wall of China built? Why did the Berlin Wall fall? Why do we drive on the left side of the road? Why does GameStop matter? Not asking why and accepting things the way that they are will doom you to complacency and inaction. Saying, this is the way that we've always done things is a cop-out, and I know that every single student in this room is so much more capable than that. So therefore, I challenge you to go out and to learn. Learn good history. Learn humanity's accomplishments. Study who the leaders were in movements and events that you admire, who the change makers were, and model yourself off them. Find out the battles that they faced so that you could sit where you are today and never take that for granted. Learn bad history. People say history repeats itself. Study humanity's mistakes so that you can hold yourself personally accountable to making sure that they never happen again. Learn history that makes you uncomfortable and upset. Learn to recognise the early rumblings of a dictatorship or a genocide. Learn to recognise changes in political tides so that you know where you want to align yourself. Learn to understand the forms that inequality has historically taken in our world so that you can call it out when you see it. Learn forgotten history. People say history was written by the winners. Find out who the losers were. Minority groups, women, LGBTQI groups. Find out what they had to say. Find out those who were written out of history, who weren't given a seat at the table, and think about what might be different if they had been given the same opportunities. Finally, learn your own history. Find out what's happened in the past to make you, you. Ask your grandparents about their lives. Study the past of the institutions you belong to and the political party that you vote for. Befriend people with radically different life experiences to you. Mentor those less privileged than you. Never stop yearning to understand what it is that makes others who they are. It is always important and it is always relevant to study the past. By connecting with the past, you can lead change. By studying history, you know who you are, you know who others are, and you know how to better connect with them. You can see how far we have come, but you can also see how much further we have to go. And in doing that, you can be a more effective, empathetic, and visionary leader into the future. Thank you.